Makeup, cats as gods, and pet crocodiles. Welcome to ancient Egypt. Explore their surprising traditions and inventions. Let's dive in. Imagine a world where eyeliner wasn't just a beauty product. It was a necessity for survival and even a spiritual tool. Welcome to ancient Egypt, where makeup wasn't optional but mandatory for both men and women. Their iconic black and green eye makeup wasn't just for aesthetics. It had a dual purpose. It protected their eyes from the harsh desert sun and was believed to ward off evil spirits. It was so essential that even laborers working on the pyramids were known to line their eyes with thick coal, and makeup was only part of the story. Hygiene was a central concern in ancient Egyptian life, especially for women. They developed clever solutions to stay clean and fresh in the hot climate. Women would shave their heads or wear wigs to prevent lice, and they used scented oils to mask body odor. They also devised ingenious methods for feminine hygiene using soft papyrus or linen as early sanitary products. This picture vividly captures the elaborate clothing and beauty rituals of the time. Notice the intricate jewelry and painted eyes of the women. They weren't just showing off their style. They were participating in a centuries-old tradition that combined health, spirituality, and beauty into one seamless practice. For the Egyptians, looking good wasn't just a choice. It was a way to honor their gods and maintain order in the universe. In ancient Egypt, cats didn't just roam the streets, they ruled them. Egyptians believed cats were sacred animals that embodied divine protection and grace. The goddess Bastet, often depicted as a lioness or a domestic cat, was the deity of home, fertility, and protection. Killing a cat, even accidentally, was punishable by death, and some households would even shave their eyebrows in mourning if their beloved cat died. Cats were so revered that they were often adorned with gold collars, treated to the finest foods, and in some cases mummified to accompany their owners to the afterlife. This deep adoration for cats wasn't purely sentimental. Egyptians valued them for their practical ability to protect grain stores from rats and snakes, essential for sustaining their civilization. Cats were guardians of both the home and the soul, a responsibility Egyptians took very seriously. This sacred connection to animals didn't stop with cats, as you'll see in the surprising truth about their mummification practices. When you think of mummies, you probably picture a royal pharaoh wrapped in linens, entombed in grandeur. But in ancient Egypt, humans weren't the only ones granted this elaborate send-off. Animals were often mummified too. From cats to crocodiles and even baboons, animal mummies served various purposes, including religious offerings and companions for the afterlife. It's estimated that millions of animal mummies were created, many of which were carefully placed in tombs or temples. Why such devotion to preserving animals? Egyptians believed in the spiritual power of these creatures. Some were seen as earthly manifestations of gods, while others were offerings meant to curry divine favor. However, not all mummified animals had noble fates. Archaeologists have discovered that some were hastily wrapped replicas, suggesting a bit of ancient fraud in fulfilling temple demands. Speaking of ancient animals, let's dive into one of the most unexpected Egyptian practices, keeping crocodiles as pets. Yes, you heard that right. Crocodiles were kept as pets in ancient Egypt. But these weren't just any crocodiles, they were sacred animals associated with the god Sobek, the deity of the Nile and fertility. Some Egyptians believed that housing and caring for crocodiles would bring them closer to this powerful god. These reptiles were often treated like royalty, with their own ponds, priests to care for them, and even elaborate jewelry. In some temples, crocodiles were fed lavish meals and pampered until they were mummified upon death. Sobek's crocodiles symbolized strength and protection, and their ferocity was a reminder of the Nile's untamed power. It's fascinating to think that Egyptians managed to live so harmoniously alongside such fearsome creatures. But while crocodiles were revered, Egyptians also sought ways to heal and protect themselves from other dangers, as their medical practices reveal. Ancient Egyptian medicine was a fascinating blend of magic, religion, and surprisingly advanced science. Physicians in Egypt were highly specialized, with some focusing on specific ailments like dentistry, gastroenterology, or surgery. Medical papyri revealed detailed instructions on treating wounds, broken bones, and even eye infections. Honey was a favorite antiseptic, and they used willow bark for pain relief, essentially an ancient form of aspirin. But medicine wasn't purely practical. Magic played an essential role in healing. Physicians often recited spells or used amulets to ward off illness, believing that many ailments were caused by angry gods or spirits. The Egyptians' holistic approach to health was groundbreaking and continues to impress modern researchers. However, not all their remedies were as practical. Just wait until you hear about their toothpaste recipes. Imagine brushing your teeth with powdered ox hooves and burnt eggshells. That's precisely what ancient Egyptians did. Their toothpaste recipes may sound bizarre, but they were surprisingly effective. Egyptians were among the first people in history to care about dental hygiene, and they developed elaborate mixtures to keep their teeth clean and fight bad breath. Why the obsession with oral health? Diet played a big role. Their bread, often filled with sand and grit from grinding stones, would wear down teeth and cause painful infections. To combat this, Egyptians used toothpaste and mouthwash made from natural ingredients, sometimes mixed with myrrh or mint for a more pleasant taste. These recipes found on papyri highlight just how innovative they were in dealing with everyday challenges. When you think of ancient Egyptian workers, you probably imagine pyramid builders and scribes, but the job market of ancient Egypt was far more diverse and strange. Ever heard of professional mourners? These women were hired to cry, wail, and throw dirt on themselves at funerals, creating an emotional atmosphere to honor the deceased. Their dramatic performances weren't just for show, they were believed to help guide the soul into the afterlife and appease the gods. Professional mourners were often trained for years to master the art of lamentation, making them essential for a proper Egyptian burial. Then there were tomb painters, who brought tomb walls to life with vivid depictions of everyday life, myths, and journeys into the afterlife. Their work was meant to ensure the deceased soul had all the guidance it needed. Another fascinating role was that of herb priests, medical specialists who doubled as magicians, blending healing skills with spells to treat illnesses. These roles show how deeply ritualistic and specialized Egyptian society was. Speaking of roles, the influence of Egyptian women on this intricate society might surprise you. While many ancient societies relegated women to the background, Egyptian women enjoyed significant rights that were ahead of their time. They could own and inherit property, initiate divorces, and even sign contracts. Women like Hatshepsut, one of Egypt's most accomplished rulers, and Nefertari, the beloved queen of Ramses II, broke traditional gender roles and demonstrated how women could wield real power. Hatshepsut in particular ruled as a pharaoh for decades, commissioning monumental structures and ensuring peace during her reign. Marriage in Egypt was treated as a partnership, with many agreements clearly stating shared responsibilities. Divorce wasn't uncommon, and women often retained their property if marriages ended. Women also played key roles in religion, serving as priestesses, singers, and dancers in temples. This progressive approach to women's roles reveals an inclusive culture where their contributions were celebrated. And when it came to their appearance, Egyptian women influenced fashion and beauty standards that still captivate us today. In ancient Egypt, your clothing and hairstyle were more than just an expression of style. They reflected your status, hygiene, and even your beliefs. Linen was the fabric of choice, its light and breathable nature ideal for the scorching heat. Most wore simple tunics or kilts, but the wealthier classes adorned themselves in intricately pleated garments, often paired with jewelry made of gold, lapis lazuli, and turquoise. Wide beaded collars, armlets, and anklets completed the ensemble, signaling the wearer's wealth and importance. Hair care, however, was just as important. Both men and women shaved their heads, partly for cleanliness and partly to combat lice. Wigs made of human hair or wool were worn for special occasions or even daily life among the elite. These wigs weren't just practical, they were styled and perfumed, acting as both a status symbol and an aesthetic statement. The meticulous grooming extended to the use of scented oils and creams, showing how much care Egyptians put into their appearance. Their love for beauty mirrored their appreciation for abundant feasts and unique culinary traditions. For ancient Egyptians, food wasn't just sustenance, it was a celebration of life. Bread and beer formed the backbone of their diet, consumed by everyone from pharaohs to farmers. But their meals were anything but basic. Figs, dates, and pomegranates were common fruits, while vegetables like leeks, onions, and garlic were dietary staples. The wealthier classes enjoyed delicacies such as roasted goose, honey-glazed cakes, and freshwater fish from the Nile. These feasts were often seasoned with imported spices reflecting Egypt's trade connections. Beer, brewed from barley, wasn't just a beverage, it was a daily essential. Even workers on the pyramids received beer as part of their wages. During festivals, food took on a sacred role. Offerings of bread, meat, and beer were left at tombs and temples to honor the gods and sustain the spirits of the dead. This culture of abundance and ritual extended beyond the dining table, spilling into their entertainment and leisure. Among their favorite pastimes was something timeless: board games. The ancient Egyptians had a knack for turning everything into ritual, even their leisure time. Their favorite pastime was Senet, a board game played by royals and commoners alike. Senet wasn't just about strategy and luck, it symbolized the journey to the afterlife. Players navigated their pieces through obstacles that mirrored challenges in death and rebirth. Boards were crafted with ornate designs, and some, like those found in Tutankhamun's tomb, were made of gold and ivory, emphasizing their cultural significance. Another game, Mayhem, involved a circular board representing a coiled snake, with players racing their pieces along the serpent's body. These games weren't just for fun, they carried spiritual meaning, symbolizing cosmic order and personal fate. Egyptians often depicted themselves playing these games in tomb art, showing their belief that leisure continued in the afterlife. These games weren't just a diversion, but a window into how Egyptians blended daily life with deeper, spiritual themes. Labor strikes might seem like a modern invention, but the first recorded one took place over 3,000 years ago in ancient Egypt. The workers responsible for constructing the royal tombs in Deir el-Medina decided they had had enough. During the reign of Ramses III, these skilled laborers stopped working to demand better wages and rations, which had been delayed. Their grievances were clear: they wanted fair treatment and adequate provisions to sustain their families. This strike wasn't violent but well-organized. Workers gathered and presented their demands to officials, who eventually addressed their complaints. The event was meticulously recorded on papyri, proving how important their cause was. This moment in history shows that even in a society as hierarchical as ancient Egypt, collective action had power. Their respect for order extended beyond labor disputes and into their spiritual connection with animals, as seen in their treatment of sacred creatures. For the ancient Egyptians, animals were more than companions. They were divine symbols of gods and cosmic forces. Cats, as you've already seen, were revered for their connection to Bastet. But they weren't the only sacred creatures. The ibis, associated with the god Thoth, symbolized wisdom and knowledge. Crocodiles tied to Sobek represented strength and fertility, while scarab beetles embodied the sun god Ra and the cycle of rebirth. These sacred animals were often mummified and offered as tributes to the gods. Temples dedicated to specific deities sometimes housed their associated animals, cared for by priests. The Egyptians believed that by honoring these creatures, they were maintaining the balance between humans, gods, and nature. This reverence extended into their personal lives, where they celebrated emotions and relationships in ways that still resonate today, as reflected in their timeless love poems. Love in ancient Egypt wasn't just a private matter. It was a subject of poetry and art, celebrated as one of life's greatest joys. Some of the earliest love poems in history have been discovered on papyri and temple walls, revealing the Egyptians' romantic and playful side. These verses describe the beauty of a lover, the longing for their presence, and the overwhelming joy of being together. One poem reads, "The voice of the dove speaks, calling to my heart, I long to go to her." These poems weren't purely sentimental, they were also deeply symbolic. Love was seen as a divine gift, blessed by the gods. Romantic imagery often intertwined with nature, referencing flowers, rivers, and the sun, drawing parallels between human emotions and the harmony of the natural world. Some poems also carried a playful, flirtatious tone, capturing the universal feeling of infatuation. Beyond romantic relationships, they also honored familial love and friendship, emphasizing the deep connections Egyptians valued in their lives. What's fascinating is how these poems transcend time, reflecting emotions that are still relatable today. They show that even in a world of pharaohs and monumental architecture, Egyptians cherish the simple, profound beauty of human connection. Their ability to articulate these feelings so vividly reveals how much they valued not just love but also learning and expression, a legacy reflected in their education system and their iconic hieroglyphs. In ancient Egypt, education wasn't for everyone. It was a privilege reserved for the elite and those destined for prestigious roles like scribes or priests. Boys from wealthy families would be sent to schools, often attached to temples, where they underwent rigorous training. Learning hieroglyphs was central to their education. These intricate symbols, numbering over 700, were more than just a means of communication. They were considered sacred. The ability to write was believed to be a divine gift from Thoth, the god of wisdom and writing. Scribes were among the most respected members of society, as they were responsible for recording everything from legal documents and taxes to religious texts and monumental inscriptions. Mastering hieroglyphs required years of practice and discipline, with students first learning simpler hieratic script before advancing to the complex symbols. The tools of a scribe, reed brushes, ink, and papyrus, were as essential as a carpenter's hammer or a farmer's plow. Education in ancient Egypt extended beyond writing. Students also studied mathematics, astronomy, and religious doctrines, preparing them for roles as administrators, architects, or scholars. The enduring nature of hieroglyphs carved into stone and painted on walls ensured that the achievements and beliefs of ancient Egyptians would be remembered for millennia. Their dedication to preserving knowledge and culture reflects their understanding of the importance of continuity, a value deeply ingrained in every aspect of their civilization. One of the most enduring legends of ancient Egypt is the supposed curse of King Tut. When British archaeologist Howard Carter discovered the boy pharaoh's tomb in 1922, it became a worldwide sensation. The tomb was a treasure trove filled with golden artifacts and perfectly preserved objects. But soon after its opening, rumors of a curse began to spread. Lord Carnarvon, the financier of the expedition, died shortly after visiting the tomb, fueling whispers of supernatural retribution. Over the years, mysterious illnesses and accidents befell others involved in the discovery, but was there really a curse? Most historians argue that it was mere coincidence, possibly exacerbated by exposure to ancient mold and bacteria in the sealed tomb, yet the idea of a curse has persisted, capturing imaginations worldwide. This fascination with King Tut highlights our enduring curiosity about Egyptian rituals and beliefs. Among their many innovations, the Egyptians were also masters of fragrance, a lesser-known but equally captivating aspect of their culture. For the ancient Egyptians, perfume was far more than a luxury. It was an essential part of daily life and spirituality. Fragrances were used to mask odors, protect the skin from the harsh desert climate, and even connect with the divine. Perfumes were made from natural ingredients like myrrh, frankincense, and flowers, blended with oils to create aromatic blends. Pharaohs and priests would often wear scented cones of wax on their heads, which melted throughout the day, releasing a continuous fragrance. Perfume also played a critical role in rituals. It was believed that sweet scents pleased the gods, so incense and oils were regularly burned in temples. Perfumes were seen as purifying, and were even used in embalming processes. The importance of fragrance underscores how sensory experiences were tied to both daily life and religious practices. However, Egyptian society wasn't all about indulgence. When it came to laws and justice, they maintained a strict and surprisingly progressive system. Ancient Egyptian laws were deeply rooted in the concept of Ma'at, the goddess of truth, balance, and cosmic order. Ma'at wasn't just a deity, it was a principle that governed both the universe and human behavior. Justice was essential to maintaining harmony, and legal disputes were handled with remarkable fairness. The vizier, or high-ranking official, acted as the chief judge, ensuring that laws were upheld. Punishments for crimes varied depending on their severity. While serious offenses like murder could result in execution, lesser crimes were often punished with fines or public labor. Egyptians also practiced restorative justice, encouraging reparations to restore balance rather than simply inflicting punishment. Contracts and property rights were respected, and women had the same legal standing as men in many cases. This focus on fairness extended to personal expression, as seen in their fascination with body modifications. The ancient Egyptians weren't just innovators in art and architecture, they were also pioneers of body modification. Tattoos were common among both men and women, often symbolizing religious devotion, protection, or status. Mummies have been discovered with tattoos of deities or sacred symbols, suggesting that body art was deeply spiritual. Women, in particular, often had tattoos related to fertility or childbirth, which were thought to provide divine protection. Piercings were another form of body modification, with earrings and stretched earlobes often adorning both sexes. Pharaohs sometimes wore elaborate piercings made of gold or precious stones, emphasizing their divine status. Egyptians also used cosmetics like henna to dye their nails and hair, further enhancing their appearance. These modifications highlight how personal expression was intertwined with identity and belief. Their creativity extended beyond their bodies to their groundbreaking invention of papyrus, the world's first paper. Long before parchment or modern paper, the Egyptians invented papyrus, revolutionizing how knowledge was recorded and shared. Made from the papyrus plant that grew along the Nile, this material was both durable and lightweight, making it ideal for writing. Scribes used papyrus for everything from legal documents to religious texts and even personal letters. Without this invention, much of what we know about ancient Egypt, and indeed the ancient world, might have been lost. Papyrus also contributed to Egypt's economy, as it became a valuable trade good exported to other civilizations. The process of making papyrus involved stripping the plant, soaking it, and pressing it into sheets, which were then dried under the sun. It was an art form in itself, requiring precision and skill. The invention of papyrus underscores the Egyptians' innovation and their commitment to preserving their culture for future generations. The ancient Egyptians didn't just gaze at the stars, they built entire belief systems around them. For the Egyptians, the heavens were a map of divine forces, guiding their lives and ensuring the balance of the cosmos. They were some of the earliest astronomers, meticulously observing the stars and planets to create calendars, plan harvests, and align their temples and pyramids. One of their most remarkable achievements was the creation of a 365-day solar calendar based on the annual rise of the star Sirius, which coincided with the Nile's inundation, a life-giving event for their civilization. Astrology played a vital role in their religious practices too. The constellations and celestial movements were seen as the workings of gods, and priests would interpret these patterns to predict events or provide spiritual guidance. The zodiac, familiar to us today, has its roots in Egyptian stargazing, later adopted by the Greeks and Romans. Even the iconic Great Pyramid of Giza is thought to align with the stars of Orion's belt, symbolizing the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. This profound connection to the cosmos shaped their understanding of time, life, and death. But the Egyptians weren't just dreamers with their heads in the stars, they were active and physical in their daily lives. Just as they celebrated the heavens, they also celebrated the strength and agility of the human body through sports and games. The ancient Egyptians weren't all work and no play. They loved sports and saw physical fitness as an essential part of life. Many of their sports had deep cultural and religious significance, often performed during festivals or in honor of the gods. Wrestling, for example, was a favorite among both the elite and the commoners, with illustrations of grapplers found in tomb paintings and temple reliefs. Archery was another popular activity, serving as both a sport and a skill essential for hunting and warfare. Pharaohs were often depicted engaging in sports, showcasing their physical prowess and divine strength. Ramses II, one of Egypt's most famous rulers, was portrayed as a master archer, hitting targets with precision during ceremonial displays. Water sports like swimming and rowing were also common, thanks to the Nile's central role in their lives. Children would play games along the riverbanks while adults participated in boat races during religious festivals. Sports were more than just entertainment. They were a way to build community and honor the gods. Many games and activities mirrored cosmic themes, symbolizing the eternal struggle between order and chaos. This emphasis on balance and competition reflects the Egyptians' broader worldview, where every aspect of life, from the stars above to the games below, was interconnected in a grand, harmonious system. The ancient Egyptians were not just masters of architecture and astronomy, they were pioneers in timekeeping. Their invention of a 365-day calendar wasn't just a practical achievement, it was a triumph of observation and ingenuity. The Egyptians' entire existence revolved around the Nile River, which flooded annually and deposited rich silt, essential for farming. Accurately predicting this life-giving inundation was vital, and their solution was the first calendar system designed to align with the solar year. The Egyptian calendar was divided into 3 seasons: Akhet, inundation; Peret, emergence; and Shemu, harvest. Each season was 4 months long, with 30 days per month, totaling 360 days. To account for the missing 5 days, they added what they called the epigomenal days, dedicated to celebrating the birthdays of gods like Osiris and Isis. These extra days ensured their calendar synced with the solar cycle. It's no coincidence that the calendar's creation coincided with the rise of Sirius, the brightest star in the night sky, whose appearance marked the start of the flooding season. This alignment wasn't just practical, it was divine. What makes their system even more remarkable is its legacy. The Egyptian calendar laid the foundation for many modern timekeeping systems. While they didn't account for leap years, their innovation inspired the Julian calendar, which later evolved into the Gregorian calendar we use today. Their understanding of celestial patterns, combined with their reliance on the Nile, created a system that allowed their civilization to thrive for thousands of years. But the Egyptian calendar wasn't just about farming, it had profound cultural and religious significance. Festivals, rituals, and daily life were all governed by this rhythm of time, tying the cycles of the cosmos to the cycles of human life. By predicting the floods, Egyptians ensured the survival of their people, creating a society where balance and order prevailed. That's about it. Write in the comments which fact about ancient Egypt seemed the most unusual to you. For more useful information, watch other videos.